Hi everyone, I'm Ben Galbraith and I'm the creative director at Blackside Studios.
And I'm Matt Burns, writer of Don't Look Back.
And today we're going to give you a tour of the Don't Look Back rulebook. Let's talk about the cover first. This is actually the original cabin kit.
The first terrain set.
Yeah. And then, this is like pretty standard horror setup. I think almost everyone will play a game like this at some point. And there's a special hidden secret with this book too.
This is my favorite because we didn't tell anybody until it went out live into the world.
Should we tell them what it is, or should we just
probably.
let them?
Yeah, since this is what we're doing today.
Yeah. We did glow-in-the-dark UV treatment on this book, so the text and the outline will glow in the dark. You may have to charge it like in the sun for a little bit, but
it's great though.
It's
like
cool.
Bright.
We didn't tell anyone about that, and it was kind of funny because
I'm glad we didn't.
People actually legitimately got a jump scare. Let's dive in. All right, so this is a culmination of a lot of work that we did over probably like a year. The book starts off with the rule of cinema, which you could probably kind of touch on that.
Yeah, so rule of cinema is probably one of the most important pieces of Don't Look Back, because Don't Look Back is about creating a narrative experience. So rule of cinema kind of gives you as a gamer the permission to be able to have what happens on the tabletop be what you want it to be.
Yeah, it's less about, hard and fast rules and more like make a solid narrative experience.
Yeah, and make up rules if you need to. Create the scenes that you want.
Yeah. It's really about, reenacting a horror experience. Pretty standard. The first part of the book, we've got thanking all the people who pre-ordered.
Yeah, amazing supporters. Thank you.
Table of contents. We actually did this chapter guide, which I was trying something a little different with this. This kind of just, if you're opening the book for the first time, I think you can kind of get an idea of what each of the chapters is about in a little bit more depth than maybe like a table of contents would do.
And this is really important too for kind of that narrative element, because it shows you kind of where things are and then gives you the ability to sort of go through and find like maybe what you want to add together for your experience before you set up the game and start playing.
All right, let's get into it. So the first chapter is Northwood lore. We won't go too deep into that. I think if you're buying the book, you can kind of read through that. But the first thing that you'll see is the map of Northwood.
And I love this.
And we kind of made this look like a classic, 50s, 60s travel map that you would see, or like a travel postcard, I think. And there's a ton of locations that some of them actually came from like game streams that we did over years.
That then worked their way, some of them worked their way into VHS expansions, and now they're on the map. So if you've played some of them, you'll find a lot of familiar spots and places where killers and characters hang out.
And there's plenty here that like we haven't even touched on yet.
I know.
Like Northwood Prison, the junkyard. There is a lot of like world building that has gone into Northwood.
It's my favorite part. Really important, I think, to making a game.
This section will basically describe a lot of the really like important, I guess, like lore aspects of Northwood, and I would encourage people who love that kind of thing to kind of like really just get into it and give it a read, because there's a ton of really awesome little narrative hooks. A lot of people always ask us like about the two high schools in Northwood
and the colors to paint them if they want to do like the Letterman jackets and stuff. So there they are.
There's like locations, and we sell kits of some of these like Big Turkey videos. Some of these things have kind of like grown organically from just like random kits that we've done. They might allude to like specific VHS packs, and I'm a fan of like, if people want to know about lore and stuff, like give them everything they need and they can kind of like discover it on their own.
And like this, like if you're playing with the Greys, it kind of makes that feel more real or more interesting when you kind of know what's happening and why they're there.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess this is kind of like a lore section, but also gets into kind of the intro to some of the characters. But each of these characters has their own identity that has really grown over the course of
like the last few years. They've really grown.
There's a lot of community memes and stuff around some of these characters,
especially Seth and Max.
Seth, and we got Max, and this is a chance for us to really do some like nice, fancy artwork for them.
And in this new edition, we added some new core characters.
Mia and Keen are new, as well as Ranger Sandy's coming back. And then we also have Pat. There's a lot that we're going to do with this character.
Yep.
There's a lot of redacted text here, you know? I mean, who knows?
It's top secret.
Yeah.
What do they do? We don't know.
Give it a read. There's definitely some things alluding to future content for that.
Yeah. That's really exciting.
Chapter 3 is the prologue. This is kind of going to set up the game for you if you're kind of getting into it. Runs through some of your important concepts, all of that kind of stuff.
Some suggestions on where to start, how to kind of get into the game, and what you're going to need to be able to do that.
Yeah, and that's kind of going to set up the setting up stage of the book. Each of the chapters, we wanted to do some nice big art spreads. Really, doing these hardback books is a chance for us to have a bit of fun with it.
And then each one has that micro table of contents to sort of, once you get into that section, makes it even easier to find what you're going to need while you're playing.
Yeah, that's something that I've seen done in a few other rulebooks, and I really like it, and I've started doing that in a lot of our books too.
It's very helpful.
This is really just about setting up the game. If you want to know how to set up the table and kind of call up your characters, we kind of run through things, and we put page callouts as well to just try and make it as helpful, as much quality of life stuff. This will break down character cards, also how to call up your characters as well. We have symbols that allude to the symbols on the cards, which is cool.
Lots of designer's notes. So with this being a narrative game, I felt it was really important to have opportunities to kind of talk to the player. So there's a lot of sort of the black and white rules of how to play, but then the designer's notes sort of have a lot of those permissions for how can you change this and feel free to do things differently. So calling up your character is a good example, because normally you choose 4 random, but if there's something you really want to do, then feel free to choose who you want to bring instead of making it random.
Exactly. It's about choosing your plot. And doing a plot in Don't Look Back is kind of the main narrative base, you could say. This will kind of detail the aspects of choosing a plot. Pretty straightforward, honestly. Most VHS expansions will come with a plot card that also details it. Select intensity level, select your killer, and you kind of just
that art's great too.
Set the stage. So on this page also you'll see a call out at the bottom, and this is really important as well. And is that if you're just getting started with Don't Look Back and all you own is the rulebook, all of these character cards you will find in the back.
Yes, all the reference.
We also sell the physical cards as well, but everything that you need to play the game is contained within these 2 covers.
Yep. So the only thing you would need is some minis and a player, some terrain and minis.
That's it. This kind of goes into terrain rules. Pretty straightforward. Really this is a sandbox rule set that kind of has everything that you need to sort of allow you to play the game your way.
And that kind of played into the layout, because in here things tend to sort of be in boxes and contained. So it's sort of choose what you want as you're going through the book. You could take these pieces of terrain or this one. So even the way it's sort of laid out in the boxes is an easy way to kind of find the chunks that you want.
That was kind of a design choice on my part. I wanted everything to be boxed in, so when you're viewing a page, it's the doors and windows is here, the secure doors and windows is here, and then everything's very clearly, confined and kind of delineated. This is about universal rules. This will take you through your line of sight, your awareness, all of that kind of stuff. We have some nice little diagrams to show you. Measuring, vision arcs, all of that kind of stuff. All of these are pretty standard tabletop gaming things.
The stuff you're going to need for every game, kind of regardless of what advanced rules. This is the stuff you're going to need in a core game to build on with anything else you're going to be adding.
Light tokens is another one like that as well. Goes in basically every game. Got a nice little page. Placing the killer on the table. This is definitely a page that you want to read through multiple times. Make sure you're aware of how the killer is placed on the table. We get a lot of people confused about this because it's a game abstraction. It doesn't always behave in a linear way. The killer will sometimes come onto the table and then maybe he'll get driven off and then come back again in a completely random way.
And that was really important, I think, for horror as a genre, is really the way that the killer moves and kind of surprises people. So when the characters move around a building, killer was behind them, they move around the building, and now the killer's in front of them.
Yeah, and it's funny, once you explain that to people, it'll click in their brain and they go, oh, of course. You know, I mean, who hasn't seen a horror movie where the killer just like disappears and then randomly appears like 10 minutes later?
And we'll get to it later, but there's some good reference for that in the back that'll kind of walk you through, is the killer on the table or not on the table, and how you could sort of work through those steps to make sure that he's popping up and killing people when he should be.
I love this photo.
Yes.
This is the Gourd Reaper 3 that we did in, we do a Gourd Reaper every Halloween, and this, I love this photo.
Big pumpkin fists.
Yeah. The core rules section, this is like where all of the, I guess, like, core rules are.
Yeah.
A lovely piece of art, which was actually done by Giorgio. This is not one of mine, but we've had this one for a while, and I really wanted to reuse it.
And you guys sent me that as a print. I have that hanging on my wall.
That. Yeah, Matt has that hanging on his wall.
It's a very cool piece.
Turn order, fright phase. I mean, the core rules are the core rules. You know, you just go through them and really just like give them a read before your first game, or play through it and kind of read them as you go.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to miss something. I mean, the games are quick enough that if you miss something or you can't find something right away, just keep playing. Make sure that you're getting the game that you want, and then you can go back and revisit.
Yeah, for sure. You'll notice throughout the book, we've kept things pretty much the same. So designer's notes are usually in this box, and then examples of play will often be in like a red outlined box. Again, it's kind of like a visual thing for you to make sure you can kind of like visually tell things apart. And then we also have things like other important rules interactions may have this shaded yellow outlined thing. We've tried to fit as much balance between rules content, but then also creative as well in this book.
That was a big balance in this book.
I love making these books, and I love populating them with art and photos and stuff like that. So if you buy one of our books, generally you will always have something that's pretty creative. But we really tried to strike a balance between having some nice things to look at, but also trying to make the book usable. You'll also find this little header as well, which has the main thing on that page. Doesn't always mean that it's the only thing on that page, but it also just means like, you know, if you're trying
where you are in the book,
find your way through the book, it gives you a little bit of a guide. Go through the character phase. I like this piece of art.
This is one that changed a lot too.
Yeah.
It was like double and then single, and then that one kind of moved around a lot, but I love this one too.
The only thing that I regret is that I was planning to put like a killer watching her fall. Is she falling? Is she jumping? I don't know. I mean, I kind of assume that she's like falling down, not to her death, but like, you know that moment in a horror movie where like they might like fall out of a window and maybe they hurt their ankle, but they make an escape.
Especially in those boots.
Yeah, exactly. Quick actions, long actions. I kept this on a double spread because I think this is something that most people will want to put their ribbon in and just like reference all the time.
And it's in the back too.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that we really talked, do we want to have them in the front, do we want them in the back? And then we kind of decided on why not both. Exactly. So as you're reading, you can reference them as you're going through the book, but then as you start playing, it's in the quick reference in the back as well, so you can find it really easily.
Yeah, yeah. It should also be funny because this is definitely like VHS inspired, this line along here as well. And then these are kind of inspired by like the stickers that
that are always on there, always on the VHS cases.
This is quite literally a scan of a sticker of that type.
That's great.
So yeah, really trying to like ham up the like VHS inspired things. I love this spread too.
This is one of the things that I liked, is how his arm breaks the box, the table, and then the text actually follows around the shape of his arm. That's really cool.
This is a pretty important rule, so I wanted to make this spread kind of like obvious to people. People will always remember like, oh, the ski mask guy.
Yeah, coming out, like jumping out of the doorway.
I remember this as 99 and 100 for some reason. It's like locked in my brain. I also really like this spread too, because I got a chance to show off one of the Final Gold minis.
Yeah, that expansion was really fun.
I don't know, I've always really liked this mini with the camcorder. This explains the item cards. Again, we've shown the full art ones. These come in the VHS expansion, but we have all of them in the back of the book for you to reference. And I kept them simpler in the back of the book too. We're still just kind of going through core rules here till you get to the end phase. It's kind of a funny spread actually, because this was the last thing and I couldn't fit it on this page. And I had this photo, and it was a sick photo. So I was like, well, let's make it the end face.
Yeah, it's really cool. Killer's up here in the window.
You can even see a spider web, which I forgot to Photoshop out. There's a lot of random stuff like this that you could spot. This was the new Northwood Asylum kit that Doug had designed, and I put Boxcar Willie up there in the top.
You could play a whole game just in that.
This is actually 4 different photos stitched together.
Oh, really?
There was the main one, and then there was the green light back here. There was the smoke one, and then I took a specific one where I lifted these off and then just put him in there with a light. And I had to stitch them together. So it's a lot of trickery.
Photo magic.
Yeah. Mr. Whipper. Pretty cool. Brand new little creepy ice cream store guy. Kills people.
Goes with cold case.
Mm-hmm. I did this weird... I had someone ask me like what this is, and it's a phone box with an ice cream cone on the top.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it's not really being used because there's trash in front of it. And then maybe this might be Mr. Whipper's car. Who knows? These are the ready to play plots. So you can generate a plot. We'll get to that. But these are all just these are the OG ones from the original game.
I think it's super important that we take a moment and we talk about there's art now.
Yeah, there's art. Yes.
And some people really enjoy that. Some people are like, I wish I had the original layouts. And I think it's important to say that we sort of chose to do art instead because we want people to create their own tables.
Yeah.
And people were kind of getting really bogged down in, does it have to look like this when I play Trap? Do I have to have the table set up this way? And you don't. So we wanted to have the layout in here, have some cool thematic art, and then you create the table that you want to play on. And it's really important for
It's one of those things that, like, you know, we'll show people a table and they'll just assume I must have that many trees, I must have that many fences and all that kind of stuff. You really don't. So the artwork is more about evoking like our feel about what we're trying to do with the scenarios. And then now we're straight into the plot creator, his Big Turkey video.
Seth works there part-time.
Mm-hmm. And essentially this is like a bunch of tables you kind of just work through.
Yeah, to create all the elements. And another thing the designer notes will talk about is you can also just choose elements of this. You don't have to roll through the whole thing. If you want to do a fully random one, great. If you have certain ways that you want to play within that, once you start rolling, maybe you're like, oh, this is really cool. I want it to have this sort of character starting location. So then go ahead and choose that instead of rolling that one. So use it how you want to. That's probably the most important.
Again, the key word is horror sandbox. This rulebook, if you like horror and you want to play a horror tabletop miniatures game, this has got everything that you're going to need. I guarantee it. You got type of killer, how the killer appears. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy stuff. Flavor elements. This is kind of, honestly, we will use this. We'll take a pre-made plot and then use the flavor elements as just like a little a la carte thing on top.
Because replayability is really important for me. Like I want people to be able to even take the core plots once you've played those a couple of times and then just take the flavor elements.
Yeah. 100%.
Random characters plus flavor elements. You can play the same plot again and again, and it's going to play completely differently. Sure. Especially with the randomized killer, if you choose to do that.
This guy was like Purge inspired.
Yeah.
Kind of.
He was in when we had the expansions as separate rulebooks, so all that stuff's made its way into the rulebook now. All the original little expansion booklets, and that was a cool piece of art.
It's obviously, you know, an homage to like Friday the 13th vibe, but I wanted to do like a slightly different design. This is both lore and rules, this chapter. Over the years, there's all these killers that have shown up in streams and all that kind of stuff, and this was a chance for Matt to write lore for them, but then also suggestions of the MO, the visage, and the traits, and then also an optional special rule to use.
Because these all show up in the core plots too. These are all the killers from them, so then I got a chance to sort of write about them, and then they have these optional special rules if you want to go, you know, add that in. You totally can.
I really like how these turned out.
Yeah.
This guy has a bit of a story behind this one as well. This is based on the first ever sculpt I did when I was like 12. It's like a weird guy, and he has like an alley. He's wearing like an alligator. It's a crazy sculpt, and we made him the Lakeshore Killer.
Yeah, it was really fun to work that mini in.
It was fun. The Whistler, Judge of Hangman's Rock.
Those have come about later. So this second half, these are things that really came about from streams and writing some additional lore. First trilogy is the Seer.
So the Seer is one of my favorites too.
I really like
and some of these are obviously kind of horror inspired, but like there's a lot of them that like we're really just trying to invent our own.
Yeah, it's its own
at
world
this
for
point,
sure.
you know. This is the advanced rules section. So this is going to cover things that are not core to the game. Like advanced light token rules. We have themed jump scare tables. So there's like an urban, a rural, subterranean. These are kind of pretty wacky. Woodland, haunted, and then you get into the vehicle rules. I actually love this spread. You know, so
this is a cool spread. These rules are a lot of fun. They add something very different. And the other thing with the advanced rules is make sure that you're kind of picking and choosing what you want. It's a lot if you try to add them all in.
Yeah, I would not add them.
So just choose something for the story you want to tell that you think will be important and sort of play with some of these advanced elements in there, but would not recommend just throwing them all in.
Yeah, or just never use them if you don't want.
Just play the core experience.
It's why they're advanced. It's just
some of this was like fan asked for stuff. You know, over the years, certain people have been like, "Oh, it'd be really cool if we could do this and this," and this is the perfect opportunity.
Yeah, 100%.
Kind of getting into the second edition to be able to be like, all right, well, here's all this stuff.
We've got companion rules now, so your character can have a little companion. It's a little chow chow, favorite dog, and it's dog, cat, spirit, and bird. And then that leads into creating your own characters. And this is an advanced aspect of the game. Honestly, you could get one of the core character cards and just like play them as something else.
Sure.
But if you want to build out your own character, then we
Make yourself if you want to be able to play with yourself and your friends, and you want to get them on the table. This has you covered.
Exactly, and we have the different kind of like archetypes, I guess you could call them. There's like the athlete, the bookworm, the attuned, the brawler, and then the leader, and that's kind of like the base, and then you can kind of like add on abilities and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so you really get to make your own.
I wouldn't recommend doing this until you've played a few games.
For sure.
Because I think that would be a little bit confusing for some people, but it's definitely a really good resource to have. You can play with multiple killers.
That's one of my favorites.
Which is cool. That's something that is always pretty highly requested. It's like, oh, can we have more than one killer? There's a lot of horror movies that have that. And again, you'll see all these designers' notes in the corners when Matt really needs to call out kind of his thought process to you.
And give you permissions, because sometimes people need that. They you know, they get so caught up in the rules that they feel like, can I do this? Yes,
sometimes
please.
you just need the writer to be like, hey, do what you want.
If you choose to change your rules in here, that is okay. And you should do that.
I reuse this art from the original.
I remember that
There's
one.
a couple of little bits I reused because I was like, oh, I wanted to.
Yeah, they're very cool.
Secondary killers and then pack killers. We needed to explain these rules. You do get the rules cards for these in the pack killer expansions, but it's important for us to kind of go into those. It's a different type of killer, but it's definitely one that is very fun to use.
Super thematic, yeah. Mall full of zombies.
And then this one here is like your classic final girl.
Yeah.
Everyone's dead, the killer's dead, and she's got that like 1,000-yard stare, you know.
She's ready to finish the job.
And this is Midnight Survival, so this is something that also is requested. So the core experience for Don't Look Back is 4 players against a randomly controlled killer. Doesn't mean you can't play with more people if you want to like share. It's a cooperative game at its core, so you can obviously, there's a lot that you can do with it. But Midnight Survival is for 6 heroes.
6 heroes, yeah, it's a lot.
And this is kind of like takes you through this game mode, and it's in its own chapter, so again you can just skip over it if you don't need it, and that'll kind of all be detailed in there. Moving on, the Antagonist. This is also an important thing to note as well. This is for a player controlled killer.
So the core experience, just adding this, then you could have 5 people playing. So you could have 4 different people playing the characters, and then somebody playing as the antagonist or the killer. Gets you 5 people playing.
Yeah. We have a piece of artwork of Mr. Whipper.
There's Mr. Whipper.
There's a little liquid nitrogen And then this kind of goes through the different interactions that you'll need to account for when you're playing with a player-controlled killer.
And the big thing about that is that the player who's controlling the killer will have a lot more choices. So the jump scares and the things that are in here just give a lot more agency to the person playing as the killer.
Exactly. And again, we've kept all these things kind of contained in their own chapters. So as you're using the book, you're not going to kind of get confused where, antagonist rules are mixed in with other things. Now we have the director. Some people will actually call Don't Look Back like an RPG light. There is a lot of times that we've played that Matt chooses to actually almost be like the DM, the GM.
It's actually my favorite way to play. I like to play as the director. I think it's a lot of fun.
This is essentially adding a games master. So if you are running a game for your buddies and you're trying to teach them the game, you can actually assume the role of the director. And it's definitely a really interesting way to play, and this will kind of give you all of the tools that you need to kind of run a really, really cool narrative experience for them.
And the important thing with that, again, just like all the other ones, is it's a pick and choose. So if you want to run the game, you don't have to use all these elements as the director. You can just pick, I'm just going to do certain parts of this that I want to use in the game.
100%.
So this is like a sandbox within a sandbox.
Yeah.
Choose what you want out of there. Great spread.
Yeah, nice little photo of some of the new minis. And here we go into the rules for the trilogies. Now, this is essentially linked campaign play, multiple games together. And you will have all of the rules.
And the idea for this was that, like when you used to be able to go to the VHS store, like Blockbuster or Hollywood Video or whatever you used to have near you. You would go and there would be like, the 3 movies together that you could watch.
Yeah.
So while this is called trilogy play, you can also link as many games as you want.
Yeah.
So
100%.
The theme is 3, but you could definitely just be like, well, we're just going to link every game we play from now on and all these characters until they're done.
This is my hand. It's a photo of my hand that I like.
A little sculpty.
Yeah,
sculpting.
I took a photo, and because I hate doing hands, I really am not good at doing them, and so I had to do that.
Do you just?
Yeah.
The whole time, while you're doing it.
No, it was like a photo on my phone.
Oh, okay. That's not as exciting.
And then here we just get into the last little bit of the trilogies rules. Again, it's pretty. It's just another tool for you to use to play games. This piece of artwork is actually an homage to the original box cover from the first edition of the game.
I was trying to show because it sort of framed this guy, kind of and there was like a doorway, some lighting behind him, and he was kind of hanging out there.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a whole thing about this random man in a hood with a hammer.
Hammerman.
He's walking pretty classic. I definitely was trying to tap into his classic 70s, 80s, vibe with this. This is the Visions trilogy. Now, this was originally in its own booklet. Yeah. And we've kind of folded all of those expansions into the core book. But this is a pre-made expansion that you can play through. And we have a fun little poster for each of them.
Yeah, this is great.
And you just play through. This is the time where I think you kind of do need a bit more of a specific setup. And I figured once people get to this point, they kind of know how pliable the game is. So we chose to show the original table setups.
Yep.
And these are really fun. I love doing these spreads for sure. This is Visions 2. We should get these printed, put them in the office. And then Visions 3.
The conclusion.
The series back. Yeah, these are really good fun. And this is kind of the epilogue.
Yeah, then you get if the characters survive, or if they don't, you'll get a different ending for each of them.
Yeah, it's good fun. And then we go into a brand new trilogy, which is in this just in this book, which is Corporate Casualties. Kind of did some Shining inspired carpet here, which I kind of had a lot of fun doing. This is brand new. Is this a hotel? Is it an office building? I don't know. That's up to you. We kind of go through and we did posters for these again. I had so much fun doing these.
They really bring them to life.
Yeah. I did this it actually says De Graw above the
that's
above
very cool.
the entranceway.
And that was kind of a cool thing for the second edition. It was sort of theme. The relaunch was sort of not a relaunch, but the back room was sort of themed around DeGraw and kind of what's going on behind the scenes. So stuff with the tiers and the minis and things. There's a lot of DeGraw lore that gets uncovered.
Yeah, these are always so much fun to do. This one, I really like how this one turned out.
And writing these is really fun.
Yeah.
Because you have to really sort of think about how they do link. So you have to kind of think about how they're going to end, possibilities for endings, and then how are the new ones going to start.
Yeah. I think the most fun that we ever have is coming up with these stupid little bylines.
Yeah, they're so great.
They wanted thrills, but all they got were kills. It's just...
And that's like, with Connor, you and I will be like in chat, and we just start like painting those ideas around of what they should be.
It's so much fun. Because, who doesn't love that kind of stuff? And then we got Corporate Casualties 3. This is an in-joke, actually, between Matt and I. The fast and gloopy. We were always joking about the little mutiny guys. So they got their little fast, gloopy feet. And I added that into the color. And it's
had to stay.
So this is, we got our art kits here. It's kind of like a setup. And then the Corporate Casualties epilogue.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can definitely play through this as like a full thing. I guess you could pick and choose the scenarios, I suppose.
You mean like the order?
You could just pick one to play as a one-off.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. You definitely can. Yeah, you could pick one of them and just play it as a one-off if you want to.
So this is the end of the book. That basically ends all of the rules content.
Yeah.
And then now we get to cards and reference. So as you can see, we have all of the actual character profiles. If you buy this book, you get a PDF version as well. So you can print these out. And they're super easy to use. It has all of their stats. It has their art. You could also just literally print just this section.
Yep.
If you don't
so you want to save ink or whatever it is, fit more on a page.
Yep.
And this is, I think, like we were talking about earlier, that's really important, is that if you want to try and get into Don't Look Back and you just want to give it a shot, as long as you've got some minis that you want to use and some terrain, everything 100%. You need to get started is just right here in the back of this. All the cards and things.
It will require you to do a bit of hobbying, a bit of effort to set up your game. But if you just want to give the game a go before you really dive in, then we just tell you just buy the book. You're gonna get a great quality hardback book. That's honestly just a really nice book to own. And then we even have the Patrol, and then we get to the visage cards. So these are the different killer visages. Again, same type of methodology here, where you can kind of screenshot them, you could print them out. That kind of takes you through, and then we have the ammo cards and the trait cards.
Yeah. So you can create your killer.
And then also the item cards. We added a bunch of new items to the game.
And combined some of the old ones from some of the different expansions and things.
Yeah, this has the core deck and then the Ranger Sandy's garage is what it was called, right? So, so you get a
lot of items.
And these are, again, you could just print this out from the PDF or take it to FedEx and photocopy it and then just cut them out.
Or you could use dice and roll randomly. If you want to find items, you could just roll and then 100%. Just count through and see what it is that you find.
Yeah, it'd be super easy to do. And then here we did a quick reference section. Essentially, we tried to just go through quick reference is always really hard to do because every player needs something different for them, right? We tried to cover all of the main things of the game. Here we've got kind of an overview, and then we have the building tension, the fright, important fright token rules. The methodology was if you just printed these pages in the back out for your friends, then they would have a really good kind of thing to look at over the game.
Yeah, you wouldn't need to do as much going back into the book on the spot.
Yeah. We do have, and this is a really important one, is these flowcharts here will help you control the killer throughout the game. If you get stuck, you can it's just like a yes or no tree for you to kind of
very easy to walk through. Killers on the table, killers off the table, what's going on, and then 100%. You'll figure out exactly what you need to do.
Luck, referencing for characters, jump scare table. Again, this is one that you can just print out without all of the artwork and cut-ins and stuff.
I like what you said too, you just snap it on your phone, and then you're good to go right at the table.
Yep, easy. Attacking the killer, taking actions, and then the double spread. And the difference of this one is we added the barricade action, which is for the midnight survival.
Midnight survival only, and it tells you right there on the side too.
that's it, the index.
Find things quickly.
And then one last photo of the crew hanging out with some flamingos. All right, and that is it. That's the hardback book.
Thanks for joining us in this kind of in-depth walkthrough of sort of the creative ideas that went into not only making the book, but writing the game, designing the lore.
Yeah. Bit of a director's commentary, I guess, for the people that made it. If you have any questions, drop a comment below, or make sure you join our Discord. Matt hangs out there all the time. He's always happy to answer rules questions, and there's a great community on there as well.
Yeah, ready to answer any questions you might have.
Great.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.